Perfect timing to record. I'm going to introduce you to Grace Hamlin, who's the founder of the Underdogs to the Rescue out of Atlanta, Georgia. She's an Army veteran who has served to protect our freedom, and now she is serving to protect youth at risk and dogs at risk. Underdogs is a nationally recognized program in several ways, but the ones that I'm aware of are that she was awarded the Unsung Heroes Award by Petco and Victoria Stillwell, who's an international, correct me if I'm wrong, Grace, international dog trainer and behaviorist. And she has several shows, just like, especially It's Me or the Dog. Wonder Dogs was also featured on a Facebook Watch series called Returning the Favor with Mike Rowe. Again, Grace is so busy with all her efforts. If you are not on her page, please join her Facebook pages and Instagram pages. And the things that she's done just over the last 3 days is incredible. So I turn it over. We have some questions. We have some questions that we'd like for you to address. And if Grace, you can just give us the background and the reason you were inspired to start Wonder Dogs and your mission, how many dogs you saved and rescued or pets. I hand it over to you for those questions.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to give me a chance to speak about my passion for helping kids and animals. I am a kid from an orphanage. I'm the epitome of what an underdog is. I come from all kinds of backgrounds, as a woman, a minority, and then now an immigrant, because I never even thought that was something that I would be discussing. This last 2 years, COVID has brought up a lot of challenges about who we are and identity, questioning ourselves who we are, So I'm really proud to say that I am a veteran, and the work that I do with these kids is inspiring. And it's not so much my story, but the story of everybody that comes who wants to be a part of this movement to kind of acknowledge that, everything that's happening to the animals, in my opinion, the crisis with the environment is what we as people are going to be facing more and more challenges. And it breaks my heart that you leaders will be the ones that are faced with the solution. And when I started working with these kids in 2013, I basically was an injured, veteran, and I was on disability. So I'm gonna show you guys a video that was done. But my point is when I came to Atlanta, I've lived as a veteran, I've traveled all across the states. I've lived in Maryland, New York, Jersey. My family is from DC. So when I went from an orphanage at 10 years old to coming to America, it was just a very different point of view, right? I went from nothing to privileged life. And I thought that was America. That's what I thought was normal. America has a great way of branding herself and saying, it's freedom and opportunities. However, when I came out of the military in 2018, under the job market loss, I had to move to Atlanta for work. And what I saw in Atlanta was the first time I've ever seen anything like what I'm going to be sharing with you guys. But what I saw and what these kids have taught me and continue to teach me is that we have some serious challenges ahead of us, that the animals in the community are our warning system. And that's what I have loved that these kids have taught me, is that my own abuse as a child, I had a dog and I never felt my pain, but I did feel for the dog as a child of abuse. And then now that I'm working with these kids from these very, very violent, cruel situations, I realized that we could now use animals to kind of highlight what's happening at home with kids. And then the work kept growing, and then it just started showing us, what is happening with the animals and the displacement of them, the environment and the crises, the fires and the floods. All of that is warning to what is going to be happening to more and more of us in humans. But to me, what Wonder Dogs really is to raise awareness about the warning systems that animals in the community can create for us, to raise awareness about not just crime, but what's happening to the environment, the displacement of animals as the forest is being removed. So these kids have taught me that to understand the issues about your community, you really have to kind of understand the correlation between animals and how they're living, and then how we are living in these communities. So I'm going to show you a video that was done when I first started working with the kids. How about that?
Yes.
Hamlin is an Army veteran, a mechanic, but most of all, an animal lover. Gracie found herself living in an abandoned house with no one but her dogs.
We build dog houses from material, we recycle material, and then donations of houses.
Her quality of life improved when she was informed about United Way through the VA hospital. Now that she is self-sufficient, Gracie takes care of the animals and youth within her community.
And I've been doing this for so long that I just want to help the kids respect, animals and each other, and that's what I want to do. Good job, Keisha. As the organization, we've saved 14 dogs already this year.
Gracie started a nonprofit called Underdogs that teaches kids in her neighborhood responsibility and compassion by rescuing stray dogs.
So what you guys' test is to build trust. So once you can pet Sugar without her barking at you, that's when you become a wonder dog. You see a dog on the street, this is exactly how you want to help the dog get it off the street, and it's scared. You just get down like Olivia and you patiently wait. And if the dog is nice, the dog will go, you see it? Rent a bike for the kids in the neighborhood. So we basically encourage them through the weekend, rent a bike on Friday, through the weekend, and the only rule is be nice to each other.
Gracie's organization is a safe place for youth who are at risk of being recruited into gangs. Helping others and investing in the community gives her purpose, and she hopes others are inspired to do the same. Come join us to end homelessness.
All right. So I'll see if I can switch back and forth, guys, between the presentation and, can everybody see that?
The presentation, nope.
Okay, so I'm gonna figure this out.
While we're
'cause-
doing that, everybody that signed in and didn't heard before, please sign into the chat with your full name and your email address so we can have an attendance list, and you can, if you're looking for extra credit for the social leadership badge. If you don't want to share the information, then just send it to me directly. So thank you for giving us that overall. Oh my goodness. Okay, now we're back. Your intro video. So take it over for some more stories and photos of, how you train the kids and all the types of activities that you do.
Yes, so I hope you guys can see on my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, so back to the presentation. So just wanted to tell you guys, I talk fast and excited because this work, really, when I start thinking about how far we've come, the organization's been around for 7 years. And the things that, and I keep saying, the things that these kids have taught me is what really makes this work really incredible, is that they're, first giving us correlations and understanding between what's happening in these very violent, disregarded neighborhoods, and then how these kids grow up and think about themselves. So one of the first things that I started thinking about when I was doing this work was how sad it is that these kids are living in trash. Literally, when I moved to Atlanta, because I did have 5 dogs with me, that, what you realize is when you hear stories on the media, sometimes they don't always tell like exactly what you're saying. So like that video said that I was homeless. I wasn't homeless. I was, like I said, I had an accident. So I lost basically my income. And while I was waiting for my disability to kick in, United Way gave me $5,000 to get the lights and powers back on. But I wasn't living in a vacant house, but the neighborhood is filled with vacant houses, and there was a lot of crime. But mostly what I saw when I was living in this neighborhood was, like I said, I had 5 dogs, and as a veteran, the landlord could not keep his property safe. So he invited me for reduced rent to move in, and I'm pretty fearless, as far as I'm not really scared of people. I approach everybody with an open heart, and I think that makes me not brave, but just somebody that has no ill intent when I come into a community or into a person's life. So I think that is what kind of allowed me to receive all the information that I was getting, because while he was suggesting that the neighborhood was dangerous and there were gangs all over the place, I only brought my self and my love for these animals. And I only saw an opportunity, right? I'm getting a bigger house and my dogs are getting a better place to live for reduced rent. So when I moved in there, I didn't realize how dangerous it was till it actually started seeing what was going on. So this is now 2014, and I've lived in this neighborhood for 5 years, and the things that I saw were really, I will continue to tell that story because I believe that what I have learned in the first 5 years of Wonder Dogs and working with these kids was that they live, you know, these neighborhoods, we call them, you know, underserved neighborhoods in the cities. They're if you drive by, you know, I remember when I was going up to college in Hartford, and I remember seeing when I was traveling on the train how you would have the beautiful city and then the trash and the abandoned buildings, and then you have the beautiful city, and then it's the same landscape across America and across the world between the balancing of power and industry, and then poverty and people. So as a child, I've always had an eye for seeing the world, and how the world kind of interacts with us and tells that story. So for me to move to Atlanta and see such poverty that brought me back to my third world beginning was very difficult, because I was a proud American. I'm a veteran. I thought that we fight for people in these communities to have an opportunity. And what I've learned is that there is no opportunities in these neighborhoods. There are no jobs. They don't even pick up the trash. They do not pick up the stray dogs. And then ultimately you're looking at the violence and the gangs. And that is because people, do not bring resources to these communities. And we're going to call it what it is, which is, discrimination of some sort, because, most people that live in poverty are of color, minorities. And we feel, like these services are not getting there because I don't know why, it's very difficult for me to understand why certain communities are not getting the support and resources, especially when they need it. But my story began with me seeing the young kids, 7, 6 years old. These young kids are still in the program now. They were being jumped in the park into gangs. And it looked, when I first witnessed it, like a dog fighting ring. So basically you have the main gang family around the kids, and then you had your gangsters throwing the money in the air and basically encouraging these little kids to fight. And it was just so heartbreaking for me to see that and to think that, wow, is this our America? So I started attending council meetings and going to city meetings because I was really concerned about what I was seeing was happening to these kids. I mean, I just did not understand why it was allowed. So I attended these meetings and started understanding how to work with the police and code enforcement, and you understand how to make change, because unless you have a relationship with your council person, you will not make the change that you need to see. And that's what this program kind of taught me was, in order to change the things that you are seeing, you're going to have to engage. And I began doing that. I attended the community meetings. I met with the police, when they came and did their reports. I then started doing my own reporting about what was happening with the gangs. So the first thing that I did was basically get those 5 kids off the streets and offer them a job, because believe it or not, my life is full of accidents and incidents. When I moved to Atlanta in 2012, I fell through my first week at the job. I was working maintenance in a hotel, and I fell 8 feet into a room. And I call it, that I was pushed into this work. Literally, that door should have been secured, and it wasn't. And I walked into the dark room, opened the door, stepped in 8 feet, and everything on my left side of my body is broken and damaged, including my spine. My back now has bulges and imperfections that bring me a lot of pain. But when I was, on disability at the house, when I started witnessing these kids and what was happening, that's when I was, presented with an opportunity to get some help from the kids. So I was able to offer them dog walking jobs and taking care of my dogs, feeding and cleaning their kennels, because at the time I was really hurt. And then just started seeing something really beautiful. And that's what you guys are going to be seeing in all that we do, if you follow us, is that these are the kind of things that I deal with every day. The COVID situation has really presented us with a lot of like three times the normal intake and work that we normally would do. So this is a program that has 10 kids, 5 that are now working at the shelter. So I will talk a little bit about what the work has done, but like I was saying, when these kids started coming into my home to help me with my dogs, that's where I started seeing what a beautiful thing it was, because I do not come from a Black community. I don't come from such communities, and to be welcomed in and to see so much love in something that has only been presented to me through the media as scary and violent and choosing to live the life that they live. That wasn't what I was seeing. What I saw was babies running all over the city, trash all over the streets, and then stray dogs. So I needed to understand what was happening with those kids. The only tool that I knew was the dogs. And if you guys are familiar with Gandhi's quote, which I love, and I should have put it on here, is that basically you can judge, a society by the way that they treat their animals. It is that I live by every day, is that I believe that the animals are a warning system to how our communities are. And I'll go more into that about why I believe that the dogs, especially in the community, are like the canary of what's going on in our community with the violence and the trash and the, ignoring of issues. And when you ignore something as small as trash, you can create bigger, greater crimes that comes with that. So that is what has inspired me working with these kids. So like I said, these kids started helping me with just cleaning up after them, picking up with them, but then they started loving on them and I couldn't put my camera down. I love photography. So all the pictures that you're seeing right now, unless we're crediting a photographer, they're taken by me. And they take, and to be presented with that, like I said, opportunity, of being able to do the thing that I love, which is photography, and then having my 2 favorite subjects, which is children and animals. It has given me, like I said, a fulfillment and a purpose that I've never known. So I've been rescuing dogs since 2001, basically, right after 9/11. My brother is also a veteran. He is a Marine, and he was called off to Afghanistan as soon as we got into this situation that we're still in with the Taliban. But for the first time in my life, my brother, who's been my whole life, because he and I were adopted from the orphanage together, was taken, was off to a war, and I was terrified. And that's when I started seeing, animals on the street. Most of the time, my brother and I in California would run up to San Francisco on the weekends and have a great time and be on the beach and just live that life that we love. But when he was gone, I had nothing, and picked up one stray, then another stray, and then stumbled upon a eye problem that I still would like to address one day. And it really breaks my heart that, we love our veterans, but nobody's really asking what happens when a veteran has to leave for, duty. What happens to their pets? Does the Army, does the military services even consider that a lot of the problems that we have around bases of abandoned animals come from soldiers that just let them go? So we love to make our heroes, but sometimes to me, being responsible for these lives tells me a lot about people also. And to me, if a soldier is willing to abandon his dog before off to duty, it makes me really question the character of, that we're dealing with. So by the time my brother came back from Iraq 3 years later, because if you guys remember at all, there was a stop loss. So a lot of these young men were, stayed in war for 3 years consecutively. And, it broke my heart, but the dogs got me through that time. And when he came back, I had 8 dogs, and he was like, what happened? And after that, I couldn't stop rescuing. I couldn't stop feeling a hole in my heart that was filled by me helping these animals. Danny ended up moving on to his life, and I just stayed on with the rescue part of it while I was still working as a mechanic on the base. But like I said, everything kind of changed when I came to Atlanta. So I've been rescuing since 2001. By the time I'm now in Atlanta, I've been doing rescue for 10 years. But at that time, I was really exhausted, and what we in rescue call compassion fatigue, which is really something really serious that we are, especially right now. I've never seen so many rescues and leaders in the animal welfare business fall out of helping animals because we just don't have the support and resources ourselves. And all we are seeing in this time of COVID is people discarding their animals and losing their homes. And again, these correlations are really important. These correlations are really important for you guys to understand, because this is what I'm hoping that you guys can help me continue this kind of work that these kids have taught us about correlation between people that hurt animals and what happens in our community. So when I joined the Army out of college, I wanted to be an FBI agent, and I grew up in the time of Jeffrey Dahmer. And if you guys remember Jeffrey Dahmer, I mean, I think it must have been right before I graduated in 2016, this guy is pretty much eating and killing all these guys. And you find out that before he was doing all of that, he was killing animals. And he was known as a child to grow up and kill everything. Like everything that was on the side road, he was skinning it. So I grew up knowing that, really real sickos out there hurting animals, but they turn out to be real monsters. So I went ahead and kept that in my mind. And then when I moved to Atlanta and started seeing, the dead dogs on the streets and the amount of cruelty in the backyard, and you couldn't ignore that correlation, not only between the, human aspect and animal suffering, but what Gandhi says about how the communities and your society can be judged by how we treat our animals. It all started coming together to form, what we are now is the Underdogs. And it's all about understanding the correlation between animals and humans, and people that hurt animals grow to become greater criminals and do greater crimes. So I believe that we cannot ignore animal cruelty in our communities, yet it's still really difficult to get anybody in our council, in our city, to prioritize or even look at animal law. So that's one of my biggest challenges, even though I make a lot of noise, and I can tell you case studies after case studies of people that have hurt animals end up hurting people. And coming from California, knowing that you have laws like cross-reporting, who understand that, hey, if you're out there starving a dog, DFACS needs to be called because there's probably potentially harm being done to children at home. And like I said, now that these kids are teaching me that, and then looking back at my own experience as a child, now it's all making a lot of sense to me. And that yes, ma'am.
I was just saying that's such a great segue into, you're talking about how all of these kids are helping you, and the fact that the connection and the correlation, it really, really starts when they're at this age. So how is the program? I mean, you're understanding how much you have helped the kids and redirecting them to stay away from getting into that route. And what has this program done for the kids and how you're helping for the kids?
Right. So when I'm learning all about these things that are happening and my love for the animals, what this program started is the most important thing that we've done is address the challenges of growing up in these underserved neighborhoods. The trash, the cruelty, the violence, it's all relevant. Ignoring what's happening to the animals is like ignoring what's happening to the children at home. So that's what we've been talking about. Now, what the kids get in return when you live in such devastating and depressing conditions, I believe that they grow up desensitized, right? So they grow up normalizing animal cruelty. They grow up normalizing gun violence. They normalize that they're losing cousins and nieces and family members to gun violence. That all becomes normal and a part of their life, but they don't know any other world. So what Underdogs does is then introduce them to loving an animal and how to properly nurture. And what does it mean to nurture something, right? And what does it mean like to listen, right? So one of the most important things that we teach our kids is in the program, you learn to listen to the animals. And one of our goals as the organization is to give voice to that animal. Is that right now, all over the world and all over our country, animals are considered property. But my kids will tell you that property can't speak or have feelings. And that's one of our biggest fights that I believe it's up to you guys to do, is that we have to acknowledge, first of all, that animals do have feelings and that they deserve the protection, same as children. But like I said, these kids first started showing me different than what I was used to seeing on the media and displayed, in movies. What these kids is beautiful and kind and gentle and only looking for something to do, right? So we all are looking for purpose. Working with the animals has taught them basically how to find love in situations that sometimes it's hard to find it in. Now, 7 years later, now this love has turned into a job opportunity, right? So because we are talking about mostly African-American and minorities, I then learned that only 1% of minorities and African-Americans end up in veterinarian fields. So Underdogs, the first thing that these kids taught us is that we are creating job opportunities in a market that really hasn't been available to these kids. So these kids are basically learning how to love an animal. They're learning that that animal is teaching them how to heal themselves. They get an emotional support, friend. And then they learn that by saving the animals in the community, they're actually saving themselves. And that is a really, really important thing that I learned is when these kids are out here saving the dogs and learning how to listen to the dogs and what's happening to these dogs, they eventually learn to speak for the dog. And when you start learning to speak for a dog, then you find your own voice. And the issues that we fight for these animals in the community are very much, again, in the lines of same and similar to what our human challenges are. So these kids, with working with the animals, will find their voice and will tell you, what they believe needs to happen to better their communities.
And what kind of things do you have them doing?
So right now, we're going to go through the program. So I'm going to run through this real quick,
Yeah,
guys.
hopefully everybody can, we need like 2 hours with you, but hopefully.
Oh, yeah, and I'm so sorry. I'm going to go through this and then I'm going to open it up to questions. Our guiding principles, we believe that learning from animals will inspire and empower youth to change their communities through local service and activism while giving them the opportunity to learn to make a positive choice. The organization nurtures young activists into leadership roles within their local communities and encourages them to speak out on issues that impact their world. And that's what's been really incredible. I'll show you a presentation more about that. Our core values are compassion, respect, responsibility, accountability, integrity, and justice. When we were saying, what did the kids do? The number one program right now is the rescue program. The rescue program, like I said, started with 10 kids, and we are 1,000 dogs and cats off the streets. Most of that is 700 plus dogs, and then the feral cats, and then the cat overpopulation problem that we have. So we basically teach the kids in the rescue program, like I said, listening and learning is the most important thing when we do rescue. The kids are getting these incredible skills about how to kind of be mindful and present. When we are in rescue, they are quiet and they're patient. These are really important skills for young kids to have. And teaching them the rescue is not only teaching them those skills, but also saving a life. So in those 1,000 animals that we have rescued, all these kids are getting these incredible life skills that are taking them farther than the classroom and into college. So now that the program's been seven years in, not only are we creating job opportunities, we're breaking cycles of violence. My kids are not dependent on the system. They're going off to college, and that really is what's making me really proud about what saving these animals has given these kids purpose and opportunities in ways that we couldn't have imagined. So then we started, as we began to rescue, we started seeing more and more starving animals in the community. So we started a food pantry program, and then we partnered with the local pet stores and the pet food stores, and now we have food coming from every area. And that's something that you guys should consider doing for your school, is starting a pet food pantry is a great way to engage your community and start like outreach events and looking at how prominent the problem is in your community. So I don't know if you guys will get into understanding or needing that resource in your community. The Doghouse project is a huge one for us. This is where the kids get building skills. And now this is going to expand a little bit more, because most most programs don't allow kids to come in and work with animals before they're 16 because of the liabilities. But Wonder Dogs continue to show that there is no danger in working with these very, at-risk, discriminated breeds. We deal mostly with pit bulls. So that was the second thing that we really learned from working with these kids, was not only are they being discriminated, but they're fighting for a breed that's discriminated with every day. So the kids fight for the underdog, the pit bull, and then the pit bull highlights how these kids and their kindness and love can show that it's just our understanding of how we view the information that's coming at us. The media presents pit bulls as biters, as risk to the community, yet they also consider my kids to be violent and more aggressive. And to be able to talk about those two things. Another thing that I learned was that not only, we saw it in 2020, the increased violence of police violence and shootings of these kids in these communities, but same with dogs. Dogs are the second most shot victim of the law enforcement community. So like understanding that there's a lot of correlations to this work and try to get the help to tell that story, because like I said, it just keeps growing and growing. When I say that I want the animal welfare issues to be at the table of every city council, I do. I believe that if you do not discuss what's happening in the community to your animals, you are not really understanding the challenges, period. Because again, the development and the displacement of animal is happening every day in our communities when these builders and development projects come on. We've seen it firsthand in Grant Park, which is a huge zoo in our neighborhood that took down, 300 trees, grown trees, and all at once we're having hawks and rabbits and all these animals being killed, in our neighborhood because they had no sheltering and no housing anymore. So we are really excited that everything that we do with Wonder Dogs is getting down to the root cause of what's happening in our environment with animals and our relationship and our future living in this shared space. So the Doghouse Project became really important because not only are they learning building skills, but we started to see the correlation between what was happening to the animals on the chain and what was happening to kids in that home. So that's where we are right now, is we're telling the story about how important it is that we see how dogs are living in your backyards. Because if you are ignoring animal abuse, you're also ignoring child abuse, elder abuse, domestic violence. All of these are very high areas for animals and people to be in a suffering, in situation. So I keep going back to what these kids have taught us. You asked me, what does working with the animals do for these kids? They're happy. They have a place to go. They have a place to come and earn money. They have a place where they can feel bigger than what their community has made them to be. And they have purpose. And that's all that I hope that you guys can walk away from after we speak. So I'm going to show you a video that was done for us. I think you guys will like to see kind of like the environment of where we come from. Maybe
excuse me, timing wise, I hope you guys can all stick with us and people don't have to leave for class, but we'll get the more information to you later as well. So we will definitely have some.
We have it till 1:15, Mel?
One.
One?
But no, we'll keep going. Oh, those of us that can stay, please stay.
You want me to start the questions now before the video? Because they can always...
Are there questions out there? Let's ask the students. But are there any students that have to leave that want questions? Or we go on?
I'm Silvia Barrera. I'm the coordinator of the Office of Veterans and Military Affairs here at William Patterson. I have a 1 p.m. meeting and have to leave, but I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for your service. And not only for your service to our country, but what you're doing goes beyond the services, the military service. And it's great that you're using, everything that you learn in the military to continuing serving, the community and children and, saving dogs. And, dogs are like beautiful animals that they can give us a lot of love. And, just I don't have the words to say thank you enough for all the things you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. Any other questions or go? Okay, let's go to the video.
All right. You can see that, Mel?
Yes.
Perfect.
Been jumped on, been robbed, fought on. It's very dangerous. And it did a lot of things to my kids. A lot of people be shooting. It's a lot of gang related stuff.
We've been in 2 drive-bys while Thomas has been in the front of the house. And that's how it is. People carry, and that's their response. Shoot first without thinking.
As a mother, I don't want to see my child, become a statistic.
My name is Grace Hamlin, and I'm the founder of the Underdogs. We empower youth by keeping them out of gangs, helping animals in the community. 2012, I was injured on the job. I basically had no income. Unemployment had ran out, and I was looking at losing my home. So I had the dogs to care for, and the only thing I was worried about is them. I can always go stay with a friend, what I do with my dogs, and I recognized that problem outside, which is youth running around with nothing to do, and I thought maybe I could help them. Maybe I could still help the animals, and that's how the Underdogs came about.
I see Thomas was very withdrawn and really didn't socialize with a lot of people. And when he came here and started caring for the dogs and animals and helping Miss Gracie, he just fell into a place that was natural. It's good for the kids to keep themselves maintained, not worry about the negative stuff that's going outside, the gang stuff, try to leave that alone and get the kids to do stuff possible.
The kids come home after school. The little ones basically take care of the yard, and they get everything ready for the older teens as they come in. In the wintertime, we spend most of the time delivering dog houses, hay, and food. But in the summertime, things change a little bit because we have opportunity for the kids to make money and at least continue to work in the community and help the animals.
My name is Gary Hamlin, and I'm 13 years old, and I'm one dog. I like watching the dogs. I like going to the farm. I like working to cut grass.
I'm Thomas. I'm 16 and I work with the Underdogs. Well, first I rotate the dogs, then make up their beds, make sure they not getting shot or anything. Like, it makes me feel safe around here, so it gives me something to do.
In the end, it's the kids, and these kids don't have a chance. And the fact that every day they're coming up to my house because they believe in me and believe that this is gonna be something for them is it's inspirational for me. It's amazing. You have little people who believe in you, and I'm the way believing in them. I have faith now. So that video, when we started this work, it literally was that layered. It was immediately addressed what was happening with the gangs and these kids being jumped into them. And then the kids and I started picking up the trash, picking up the dogs. We planted trees, and the property values shot up to the point where in 2018, after 5 years in the neighborhood, I had to be displaced because I couldn't afford the rental property. And that is exactly what the program is showing me, and teaching us is that, if you clean it up, if you take care of the animals, if you look at how people are living in the community, the safety, it's very clear by the way people keep their yard. If you guys ever seen a neighborhood like this, and then one yard in the neighborhood is mowed, the flowers, it's all about nurturing. And that's what I really love about this program is when I started learning and seeing that the people who are in your community taking care of the animals, they also love the planet. They love plants. They understand that there are so many living connections in our world. And that's why I always say, from local activism, from saving the animals in our local neighborhood, in our community, in your school, is teaching your kids, teaching you guys that your impact is going to hit globally. Because what you're doing in your community is teaching you to prepare for the challenges of the world. Because if you guys kind of look at what a community is your world. And if you can help your neighborhood overcome those challenges, then I believe if everybody did that across our communities, we would actually have a great impact on what's happening in the world. So all of the things that we're talking about, seeing the life in a plant, nurturing it with love and sunshine, that's how I teach my kids to see life.
when we say we want to fight for the laws to change, to acknowledge life, to me, if we can acknowledge that these animals are feeling, loving, alive, and deserve the laws to protect them, then that makes discrimination possible. To me, we're picking and choosing who to respect, right? In the old days, we had slavery and people discriminated against blacks, discriminate against women. Like we have for a long time in this world have been discriminating against something. And to me, until we give animals that voice, we will continue to pick and choose what life to respect. And that to me is where we're wrong, is that if we could give voice to these animals and fight for them, fix that problem, then you're gonna go to the next problem, the environment, right? How clean, pick it up, clean it up, plant it. All of this stuff that we're learning from the animals is really going to change your world and how you see yourself in it. So I want to thank you guys so much for giving me the time to talk. And I hope if you have any questions, please reach out through Facebook, social media. Mel will have my email. I'm more than happy to help you any way I can make your community and your program successful, because I think that it's going to take all of you guys doing something to get to where we want to be, which is a better world for all of us.
Thank you so very, very, very much. Some of the students on with us today are already doing that. They're already part of the colony caretakers with me and helping the cats and managing the cats in the feral communities, cats in the community, and they're doing a super job. What are there other beginning steps or ways that you would might suggest that others can possibly take what they've learned here through this information and back into their own neighbors, even if it's in their own neighborhood and communities, even if it's in the smallest way?
Smallest. Yeah, no, I think that right now what your program is going to highlight, I love learning about what you guys have done in the last 5 years, is that I believe that with spay and neuter and feeding the animals and being responsible for the current problem that you guys sadly have to fix, in 5-10 years, you will not have that challenge any longer and will create more opportunities to get to the other issues in your community, right? So helping this colony is going to teach you that you can fix this, you can help these animals. And then once you fix that problem, where's your energy and your passion going to go? You will see another need in your community helping these animals. And I do not know what that is because I'm not on the ground, but I am certain that you guys will be able to find a way to continue to help your community be great and highlight this university for the work that you guys are doing.
Anybody else on here have some questions or, want to share how it's already helped them, or if they can relate to how Grace's students are being helped?
It kind of reminds me of, there was a movie with, I think, Jessica Alba, that she started like a dancing school in New York, and it was based on a true story. Right. And she gathered all those kind of like troubled kids from the community, and she started that beautiful thing, the dancing school. And it kind of reminds me of that project, like, you gather the kids, you're helping not only the dogs, but also the community to grow. And it's a beautiful thing.
It is. It really is. Like I said, like these kids coming in every day, it really tells me that we're on the right track. And that's the one thing that, I keep telling people is that kids want something to do. It's especially great that they have animals because all kids love animals. But anything right now, guys, that we can do to help engage the kids in your community, there's dead ends, there's parks. I mean, kids, when they're left alone, they can get themselves into a lot of trouble. So to me, starting little programs like mine and yours can engage these kids and create passion and inspiration. And that's where I feel like that's what we're lacking right now these days, is that compassion and then purpose. So I think that you guys are definitely on the right track, and understanding that the kids are looking up to you guys, and whatever you do in your neighborhoods, that's back again, that little seed that you're planting. be aware that all these little kids, whether you're brothers and sisters or your neighbors, they're all looking up to you. And I think that by the work that you do, you're setting an excellent example for them, and they need to have role models in their lives.
And that's why Grace and I are reaching out to you guys as, university students. You're the next generation that can help us do this and carry on the legacy and reach the next age of kids coming in. So thank you all just by being here and listening and wanting to learn. That's the step in the right direction as well. We have so much planned ahead. I hope you keep joining us. If there's are there any other further questions?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm really flattered for all the kind things, guys. Again, thank you again for this opportunity, and enjoy the rest of the week and do something great with your life.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Have a great day.